In a hill town in Japan, an old kiln has gone cold and gray. The potter who tended it for 50 years no longer lights the fire. His name is Tatsuo, and for a long time now, his house has been silent. Outside his gate, an old calico cat sits in the rain, waiting. She is thin and gray at the muzzle, with one notched ear. Too old, the neighbors say, for anyone to want. He has shooed her from his step 100 evenings. Tonight, for the first time, he does not.
Meow.
Tatsuo and his cat show us the real loneliness and kindness. This is how a man who made lucky cats came to be saved by one.
Tokoname has shaped clay for 1,000 years. Brick chimneys, kiln smoke, and walls built of broken pots. And along one sloping lane, a wall of little ceramic cats, each with one paw raised, beckoning fortune in off the street. Tatsuo had made those beckoning cats his whole life. People came from far away for a lucky cat from his hands. He shaped them for every new shop, every newborn, every wedding. Small clay cats to call good fortune home to other people's doors. He had shaped one long ago for his own wedding day. His wife, Kimiko, had kept it on the shelf by the door. But Kimiko was gone now, 3 winters gone, and the cushion across the low table stayed empty. The kettle went cold. The wheel stopped turning. He let the kiln go out and did not light it again. What was the use of calling fortune, he thought, for a house with no one left to share it? So the lucky cat maker sat alone in the dark, and the dust settled over every raised and beckoning paw. The cat came in the autumn, thin and quiet. She appeared at his gate one gray morning and sat, an old calico with a notched ear and careful eyes. She did not beg. She only watched the silent house. Tatsuo opened the door, saw her, and waved her off. "Go on," he said. "There is nothing for you here." But the next morning, she was back, on the same worn step. And the morning after that, and the one after that. The shopkeeper down the lane shook her head at the cat. "Too old," she said. "Too plain. The ear. Nobody will take her." Tatsuo told himself he felt nothing for the creature. He had no room left in him for one more thing to lose. He set his face and shut the sliding door against her. But through the paper screen, he could hear her there. A small, patient sound on the stone. Asking nothing, leaving never. Some evenings he caught himself listening for it. One cold night, he did not hear her, and the silence was worse. He stood at the door longer than he meant to. She was only sheltering under the eaves, soaked and still. 2 old strangers, a wall of paper between them, each pretending they did not need the other near. He was a man who had stopped calling fortune in. She was a cat that no good fortune had ever called. And the autumn turned colder, and the rains came down. The rain came hard the evening everything changed. It hammered the tiled roofs and ran gray down the lane. Tatsuo sat alone by his cold hearth, listening to it fall. And under the gate, in the wet dark, the cat was there, soaked through, too tired now even to shelter properly, her thin sides shaking, her notched ear flat to the rain. He opened the door to send her off once more. The word was already in his mouth. Go on. But she only looked up at him and did not move. Old and soaked and unwanted. And still she had come back. And something in the old man simply gave way. He stood aside. He left the door open to the warm. Come in then, he said, more softly than he had spoken in years. And the old calico rose and walked in, out of the rain. He set a folded cloth by the cold hearth, and she lay on it. He warmed a little fish and put it down in a clay dish, one of his own, that had held nothing for 3 winters. She ate and watched him and did not run. That night, the silent house had 2 breaths in it again. By the worn step next morning, he set the dish out once more. He told himself it was only until the rain passed. But the rain passed, and the cat stayed. And so did the dish. Slowly, an old rhythm came back into the quiet house. A second cushion no longer sat quite so empty. She learned his footsteps. He learned her one-notched ear. He even gave her a name. He called her Tama. A small, round name. An old name for a lucky cat. And one gray morning, with Tama watching from a shelf, Tatsuo's clay-dusted hands found the cold wheel again. The wheel turned. The clay rose, wet and gray between his palms. For the first time in 3 winters, he was making something. And he knew then what it had to be. He carried split pine to the cold kiln, and he lit it. Smoke climbed the old brick chimney into the evening, the first in years. The fire took, and the whole dark kiln yard glowed warm again. And when the fire had cooled, he drew out what he had made. A small clay cat, glazed in white and black and orange. A calico, with 1 notched ear and 1 paw raised. A lucky cat, in the likeness of the one nobody had wanted. He set it on the shelf by the door, where Kimiko's had stood, and the real Tama curled beneath it, in the warm. The man who had called fortune for everyone else had, at the very end, called a little of it home for himself. Or perhaps it was the cat who had done the calling. After that, the kiln of Tatsuo the potter was rarely cold. The lane heard the wheel turn again and smelled the wood smoke. And on a sunlit workshop shelf, an old calico slept, 1 notched ear twitching at the hum of the wheel. People came again for a lucky cat from Tatsuo's hands, and he gave each of them the same quiet smile and the same words. They call the fortune in, he would say, but you must let it through the door. He had nearly shut his own door on the best of his life. An old man, an old cat,
two creatures the world had set aside, who had, against all sense, decided to keep each other. Tama lived out her years, warm by his relit fire, and the lucky cat maker was never quite alone again. Sometimes the fortune we wait for has fur and a notched ear, and is sitting at the gate in the rain, asking to be let in. Has an animal ever chosen you when you least expected it? Tell us below, and stay a while.